Hey everyone, this is Matt Beamer, Club 1040 Live questions and answers. And we have some amazing questions from you guys from this past month. And of course, there's a number of questions related to um, the current situation as it's unfolded in the Middle East. If you haven't seen it, make sure that you look back in earlier in the month of February when I did a live Q&A with kind of an exceptional one, a live Q&A with Pastor Reza Safa, an Iranian leader who's over Najat TV, which is a Christian broadcast program that goes directly into Iran. I'll be talking about our teams in the context and the things they're facing, give you some updates on that, as well as answering your questions. So why do we do these live Q&As once a month? And why this new time? Well, first of all, the new time is because of the fact that we wanted to be able to capture some people from the West Coast, and 7 a.m. Central Time means it'd be 5 a.m. in the West Coast. But then also, in addition to that, is more and more as we go through the year, some of our local team will be doing that. And we're wanting to put more effort and production into these times to make it even better as we move forward, because Julie and I are spending more and more time in the security sensitive locations where we can't always broadcast from this. The good news is this month, March and April will be broadcasting from Egypt. So at this new time of 11 a.m. Central Time, meaning 12 noon Eastern Time. So some of the questions that were asked were awesome, and I'm going to touch base with a few of these questions. And then first, though, answer that question: why do we do this? Club 1040, what are we? We're a relational missionary movement, reaching unreached. Everything God does in the earth, He does through relationship. And this is your opportunity to hear a little bit about how your relationship is changing the Middle East and North Africa, how your relationship through prayer, through finances, through giving, and even through serving, how all those things make a tremendous impact. And it gives you an opportunity to ask questions about what's happening with the impact. And plus, we want to pull back the curtain a little bit, at least once a month, to kind of help us grow stronger in that relationship together. So we're a relational missionary movement doing reaching unreached. And why is that important? Because everything God does in the earth, He does in relationship. You in relationship with Club 1040, Club 1040 in relationship with its partners across the Middle East and North Africa. And then the ripple effect and the impact that makes with the people even beyond that. So let's a couple of these questions. There's some really good ones here, and I'm at that place where I have to go like this. So it is what it is, right? You've been to many nations. What's the cultural habit of another country that you secretly wish Americans would adopt? Honestly, there's a few of them, and aligned with, I mean, there's so many things. And one of the things, just from a general principle standpoint, is we go in not saying America does this better, America does that better. That's really off-putting to people as you enter new contexts. And understandably so. If you've ever had people come from other countries to where you're at and they say, well, we do it this way, we do it that way. What we like to do is look for the things within cultures that are unique and special, and really bring value. And we've learned and grown personally as individuals by, grabbing different things from different cultures. And that's why I love this question. It looks, what's the value in other cultures and habits that you like in other countries? Well, because I tend to be an introvert, my instant response to that was, I love the fact that in England, you can walk in and out of a shop and no one talks to you. You're not like talked to like 10 times. It's changed now where it's more service oriented, but especially when we moved there, you could walk all the way in, do all your shopping and pay for it and leave. And you might say like hello to the person at the cash register, and no one would bug, can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? That kind of thing. So for me as an introvert, I love that. Other people maybe wouldn't like it so much. You can be on a train in England, literally staring at somebody across the table, because there's usually two seats and then a table and two seats, and they face each other. So like four in a little group. And not all the seats are like that, but there are seats like that. But you can be on one of those seats, have your, sitting there reading your book or have your headphones or whatever, and have a person who is a stranger in the seat across from you, the seat catty corner to you, and the seat next to you, and you don't talk to any of those people the whole trip. And for me, that's amazing. For my wife, not so much. And so she will talk to all those people. So that's a value that I appreciate and kind of a little bit of a fun one. Another question about hiking high altitudes and international travel. Which one is, being in the high mountains or versus traveling long distances? Honestly, they both have a similar wear and tear on your body in the sense that when you're up in that little tin can at like 30,000 feet, they only pressurize it to like 10,000 feet or something like that. So it's like being at high altitude the whole time. And high altitude can be very wearing on you. They both are similar, but I think honestly, hiking is more refreshing to the soul than being on an airplane for a long time. So I will go with hiking on that one. What's the cultural habit of another country? Or I've just read that one. Here's the last one I'll do on these. Some great questions, and then we'll dig into some of the other stuff. And then I'll touch base on some of the more core questions about what's happening in the context of the Middle East. After that, I want to give you a report and an update of some of the things you've invested into first. So after years of travel and leadership, what's one lesson God keeps teaching you over and over again? And it's holding these two things in tension with each other. One is being able to drive and push towards goals, and at the same time holding in tension a patient long-term view. So pushing and patience held in tension. And it's like always continually, how can we improve? How can we do better? How can we be more efficient? How can we make a greater impact? How can we expand faster and further together? That kind of tension with the fact that at the same time, we take a long-term view and we look at things as though it's not like pressuring us to achieve these things, but we know in the end we win. And what that does is it allows us to look at the little bumps on a daily or weekly basis, things that sometimes derail some people emotionally and otherwise, and we just keep moving forward with kind of that more marathon long-term journey view. So keeping those two things in tension, sort of the push or the drive and the patience. All right, some great questions. There's some others that we'll get to at another time as well. One question related to the current situation and also kind of gives a little bit of an update is kind of what's our position when things like, for example, the State Department announced, they posted on X that basically the State Department says every American who's living in these countries needs to leave, and they listed pretty much every country in the Middle East. So what we do is we take a very clear-eyed view of some of these things, and we assess the circumstances and the situations. We look internally as well, and we then say, okay, for example, if it's a husband and wife, it's a couple, we say, if you doubt, don't stay. What we mean by that is everything you do, we want to do in faith. So if you go in faith. If you stay in faith. And if you have doubts or questions, if there's a couple, especially if only one has questions, then that means you as a couple, you've got to be in agreement. You need to go. What the sort of current situation is all the teams and all the sort of partner relationships with people on the ground that are like mission aligned that we work with in the region, they have all prayerfully looked at it and they've stayed. So if they want to stay, then the next step is assess your evacuation plan, reassess that, make sure that you've got everything in place. For example, there's one family that have their car loaded up and they know where they're going to go and what border to go to. There's another family that asked the question, they're new to a security sensitive country, which border is the best one for them to be able to leave and depart and go. And we talked about several things along those lines. And then also make sure you have it's like having a winter storm come through or something. Make sure you have all the resources, the food and non-perishable food and water and different things like that you need to weather staying and sheltering in place. And then stay away from the targets. One good thing is that in situations like this and these days is that a lot of the munitions, missiles, and different things, drones and things like that are used are pretty accurate. They're not perfectly accurate, but they're pretty accurate. And so if you stay away from the things are targets, then you're typically going to be safe. Like one particular person said, "Hey, what should we go to the U.S. embassy, etc." And I'm like, no, go to the desert where there's no people if you're going to want to be safe, because no one will shoot any missiles or drones or anything that way. And then the other context is obviously all of our teams are not all Westerners or Americans. There's the majority of our teams are non-Westerners, and they can't even leave the country. So, when it comes to situations like that, we have right now, like for example, in Lebanon, they've got a couple pictures today. Over the last couple of days, things have really ramped up with the country from the south has been bombing in the local southern part of the city, right like 2 miles from where our team is. And so here's the contextual issue with that is they're pretty accurate where they bomb, and typically they don't bomb outside of that. But what happens is they have told all these villages in the south of the country and that whole suburb, you can see there on that map, the Dahi area, it's called. It's the southern part where the major enemy of Israel is based primarily, and they're like, everybody needs to get out of that area. Well, you see, there's only a couple roads that leave out of that area. Those roads are completely filled with thousands of people, and it's hard to get out of those areas. So, like for example, today, our team has been working all along, and we've had meetings with them even this morning and the day before, and by Zoom. But they're like, we're shutting the office early today because of the fact that we need to be able to get to our locations, because they've announced to the entire Dahi area needs to be evacuated. Even the location where we started the church, which is a mall, and we use the cinema of that mall, that's it within that footprint. And they're like, everybody needs to get out, because, country south there has said that they're going to bomb it in the same way that they bombed Gaza. So our people are safe. But here's then what happens is, where do all those people go? So people from the south, tens of thousands of people from the southern part of the border, they've left. Some of our own families, there's a church plant in the south there that we're a part of, and they've had to relocate back up to Beirut to be with family. And then there's like people from that area of Beirut. Where do they go to? Well, the last thing you want to do is give a hotel room or rent your house to somebody who might be a target and invite bombs. And that's actually what's happened. The hotels are now saying, because there was a hotel that somebody was hiding in and that was bombed, they're like, we don't want to give rooms to anybody that's from that particular background, of course. So these people, then where do they go? They have to stay in the streets, or they have to it's not very warm there right now. And the same up in the north. The north is like where a lot of times they'll go to the very north in Tripoli in that area. And they're like, you know what? The mayor's like, don't come here because there's been some bombs there. Then going up into the mountains, people are like, don't come here because we don't want bombs to come into this area here. So you have this tension that is developing within the country. The country is only the size of New Jersey, and a city like a couple million people. And if you move, 500,000 people from one area of the city out, it really is going to make a huge impact on the total population of 5 million people. So our teams are all safe. They're all doing good. We continue to work, but this disruption when you're being woken at the middle of the night and there's bombs going off. And then also now the flights are being canceled all around. So the movement from country to country and things like that are a challenge. From a prayer perspective, one of the things I want to do is I want to just mention that people have asked me a lot of times from prayer, all the obvious prayers, praying for the teams, the safety and things like that. I want you to know that things continue to move forward. We're in expansion mode right now. So things are continuing to move forward that way. But especially the opportunity that this has the potential to do by opening up Iran as a opportunity. Like, let me say it this way: a free Iran will reveal to the world probably one of the largest churches in the Middle East. And what I mean by that is there's more believers in Iran than probably any other country in the Middle East. and it's been for the last 15, 20 years. There's been like a revival in the underground church there. And I don't know exactly how big it is, but there's numbers of tens of thousands that are expected to be in the church there. So you think about it this way. If down the road, a year from now or something like that, and we're able to have a church that can go public in Iran, how that will spiritually impact the nations around. There's a massive, massive potential impact there. So from our prayer point, that's one of the things I would encourage you to pray about. And then in addition to that, there is what was I going to say? Praying for the team to be positioned to be able to take advantage of the opportunity when they can get into the country, because we have been working for years now to develop materials in the Farsi language, the language that Iranians speak. And we have a lot of materials and a lot of team members. I don't know, some of you don't know that in our church in England, we had over 1,000 come to faith over a 10-year period in the church itself. And there's a decent congregation there in Manchester, England. And out of it, a number of small Iranian-led churches have started. And so we've been a part of that for decades now. And we have these materials. We're making them available freely on websites. It's just about ready to go public. We're also looking at translating even more materials to be able to train leaders into that nation. And so, as you partner with Club 1040, those are some of the things that your partnership does. As you pray for Club 1040, pray for the team and pray for the resources to be able to really speed that aspect of things forward. Lots of opportunity, I believe, will come in the near future. This is a potential shift for the entire region should the outcome be the way I would hope and that I pray and I believe it can actually materialize. So speaking of impact of partnership, what has been happening since the last month? We like to use these Q&As to help kind of update you since the last time we talked to you. And so appreciate everybody that's connecting. I was just told that there's a lot of people connecting from around. So really appreciate everybody that's helping with that. Let's go through just really quickly this sort of, as we come into the new year, we've had lots and lots of meetings. We had a Dream Team Advance. What is that? We don't like to retreat as Club 1040. We like to advance. So we had more than 26 people participating in person and online, meeting together. What do we do when we meet and do these mini advances? It's advancing the priorities, the SMART goals, and all of that as we move forward for the year so that we have alignment with our teams so that we can really achieve the maximum impact. And really, that's our theme for the year is maximum influence for maximum impact. We've had a couple team members that are in security-sensitive countries that I can't tell you too much about other than to say they are literally meeting on a daily basis with the most influential people in the entire country. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing, that influence. There's a new team launching in a different security sensitive country. We had a launch team for that team, a launch team meeting for that team recently where we gathered, there were people online, there's bombs going off all around them and warnings and stuff, but they're broadcasting or they're coming in from through Zoom and participating in the meeting while they're sheltering in place while bombs are going off all around them. So we also, every single year in February, we have our annual board meeting. We call our regular annual meeting, or RAM, is kind of a funny acronym for it to help us remember. And during that time, we get reports from all over the world and the impact that you're making. And it's more exciting than ever. An email just went out last night that kind of gives you a little summary of some of the impact from this last year, but it's so hard to communicate that. And I'm telling you, it's one of the most enjoyable times on an annual basis is to hear the impact of kind of within a couple hours going through and hearing everything. It's really, truly amazing. Then in addition to that, because we had a number of people in country, we did a mini advance for the regional team. And we were able to do the same thing, talk about our priorities and SMART goals. And then kind of attached to that, we had a global meeting of all the directors. I heard that there were like for example, it's broadcast both online and in person. There's a couple hundred people in person, but then it was also broadcast to, like, for example, there was one group in the Central America, the Americas, the Caribbean, Central America, and Mexico. That one group, they had 120 people watching online just for that one group. Then there's others in South America, different countries like Brazil and Colombia and things. And there were like 600 and some people at different times participating online, in addition to the couple hundred people in the room. And we had a lot of people in the room from the region, the Middle East, North Africa region. And as you know, we partner with that Bible college because it's one of the best and fastest ways to develop leaders, and leaders change and transform nations. That's why we do that. Over the last sort of 15, 20 years, we've grown from a handful, a dozen of Bible colleges to over 330 Bible colleges. There's about 8,000 people total combined, that most of the overwhelming majority of those are volunteers. And Club 1040 support makes a lot of those things happen. Your partnership actually is one thing that actually drives a lot of that. Mobilizing the non-paid team members, as we call them, which are volunteer team members who give of their time, their talent. Some people even raising their own support so that they can be overseas, so they're self-supporting. And then Club 1040 does things like, for example, we just purchased a particular missionary was leaving a country in the Middle East, and they had bought a car, had it for a couple of years, and they were like, hey, we don't want to just sell this to anybody, but we do need to sell it to recoup some of the money. It's worth $14,000. We'll sell it to you for $6,000. You can use it for the ministry. And I'm like, absolutely. And we could do it because your partnership enabled us and empowered us to do that. So it helped both that missionary to be able to transition back to the States, and then also helped the team to have a low cost, great vehicle that they can use to pick people up from the airport and things like that. And also there's a couple of people in the team that have driver's licenses, but they don't have vehicles. So this gives them a little bit more productivity to be able to do that. In fact, if you want to, $6,000, you can partner with that project by just sending in a donation towards that. You'll see something about that with mission vehicles later. There's another mission vehicle that we have that we're buying for a security sensitive country that's going to be $25,000 or close to 30. We try to aim for a used vehicle that's really good, between $25,000 and $27,000. We have $13,000 of that in the bank already, so we just need about another $12,000, $13,000 to finish that one off. So looking ahead, as we travel, Julie and I have been in the States for the last couple of weeks and meeting with all these people, doing all these meetings I mentioned. And now we're getting ready to return back overseas. We'll be in England for a week, meeting with the UK Club 1040 team, meeting with the church leaders there for what's called the Go Church Spring Leaders Summit. And then we will be traveling on to where we reside in that security sensitive country. From that place, throughout the next several months, we will be traveling to Beirut, to Egypt, and then back to the place where we reside now, and many other places, some of which I can't talk too much about, while still continuing to see everything develop and expansion happen across the region. So prayer points, as we've shared in the past, of course, advancing team and for new location, new countries. There's some real strong progress. Like, for example, in one country, we're setting up the board, we're meeting with people. We have to have a couple local team members, board members. So we're meeting people and vetting them and doing the background checks and all that kind of stuff, and setting up the legal side of things so that we can operate in a different level there. We've got some really big plans for, from a partner standpoint, we're shifting into new gears. And so all of our teams are really clear, and they have some really clearly defined lines. The U.S. team is growing. Ronnie's doing a great job. They just went through all their annual reviews, and the team is excited about this coming season. And so loads of great things taking place. Any other questions? I'm looking through a couple things to make sure I've covered. Oh, you know what? We have decided, one of the things that we've talked about is we've done last year's Club 1040 Day. We did as kind of a Club 1040 confidential, where we invited people in as a Zoom to that. You had to register in advance for it, and it was really good, really useful. We could talk about things we can't talk about in this environment. And then there was in Florida, when we were there with one of our partner churches, we had a Club 1040 Confidential in person there. We had about 50 people come out and hear, again, things we could talk about only in that environment. We felt like it would be good to do another one of those while we're in England before we went into that security sensitive country, so that when we can't do that kind of thing. So on March 17th, you should be looking out for the invite and the information on this. You will have to register for this. It's going to be a Club 1040 Confidential online again. We'll be doing it from England, but we'll be doing it for anybody and everybody. So whether you're a partner anywhere in the world or a friend anywhere in the world, or you want to talk, might learn a little bit more about how you can be involved from a serving standpoint, part of the team, or find out a little bit more about how you can be involved from a prayer standpoint or from a partner standpoint, or you're a partner already in one of those areas. You give, you serve, you pray, and you like, you know what? I want to find out more so that I can be updated, so I can pray more accurately. I understand the impact my giving is making and understand the impact my service is doing too. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out for that. There'll be an email coming out with the information on that, as well as sending some other things. So as always, everything that we do on these live Q&As is to give you the tools from which you can pray more effectively. So until April, you don't have to wait till then to ask questions. You can send in your questions anytime at admin@club1040.com. And I look forward to meeting with you from Egypt in April. In the meantime, thank you so much for praying for our teams. And we pray for you as partners, friends, and family. God bless you. Thank you.